Black Myth Wukong is officially a huge win, and I'm so happy for that because I had a lot of fears that it could potentially be woke or some kind of shenanigans could happen with it because I fundamentally do not trust anything that China touches and imports to the West. So, I'm kind of happy.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today. I hope this video finds you extremely well after a nice weekend. Maybe you got some time to detach, do a little R&R, or hopefully a little time to recover is coming up for you. I know finally
Not at all.
I got that window. I've been going a million miles a minute, and that's going to pick back up in just a few short days now. But I was just going so fast between content creation, game development duties, and they were just ramping up at the same time. It was a lot, but I had a moment to just breathe this past weekend. It was really nice.
Less crying about your hard life. I have a hard life. You have a hard life. No one cares.
I hope you get that moment as well. Now, this is an exciting week. We're talking about Gamescom opening night live, meaning gameplay, reveals, announcements, all that good stuff. But we're not really starting off on the most positive foot here on this Monday because we are talking about the situation Black Myth Wukong has found itself in. And as someone who's very invested in the business side of the game,
now, I do not know what the situation here is, but if I had to put my money on something, what the drama surrounding this game currently is, it's probably the fact that Elden Ring players are not exactly happy with it, because Elden Ring players probably were looking at Black Myth Wukong and saying, I will like this. This is Dark Soul-ish. But then it's a lot different because it's more active, more sporadic and whatnot. And Dark Souls and Elden Ring are, what would be the best way to describe it? More composed in a sense than Black Myth Wukong because it's a lot of chaotic stuff happening constantly. So, I wonder how that's panning out.
Games industry, and just likes to analyze the inner workings between like content creator and game publisher, influencer and game publisher, the differences between those, press and game publisher, and the differences between
I already have, by the way, heard people discussing and debating is Black Myth Wukong harder than Elden Ring, and there's a whole battle going on there, which in my opinion is absolutely hilarious.
the tiers. A lot of this situation with Black Myth Wukong kind of exposes that. And we also have a little bit of an interesting situation on the review front that I wanted to talk about. So this is going to be more of discussing the games industry as a whole when it comes to it being a business, and just some thoughts on that before we get into a lot more fun stuff later on in the week. Now, on the note of Black Myth Wukong, just a bit of housekeeping here, not to hold you up too much, but just to let you know what's going on the review front. A lot of you were asking, like, no Black Myth Wukong review, Maddie, what's going on? Like, I want to check out some more reviews from you, and I appreciate those of you who sent comments and tweets. Like, it's really sweet. I definitely want to do more reviews. I just had to make a kind of what I call a business decision this summer, which was really focusing time on game development in exchange for doing more news coverage and preview pieces instead of what I like to typically do, which is more review coverage. I love reviewing games. It's my favorite thing to do. And so I apologize things slowed down, but you're going to see it gradually ramp up. So that meant I skipped games that were less interesting to me, like Flintlock, Black Myth Wukong. I'm not really super.
Flintlock? Who considered that interesting? Oh my lord. Even hinting at the idea that Flintlock was nothing but an absolute woke, boring disaster kind of gets my blood boiling, not gonna lie.
Super excited about it. Looks great, but just not looking like the game I'm
It looks great, he says. Yeah, surely.
trying to play right now. So expect things to ramp up on the...
But you need to understand this. If you're a game developer, every game is amazing. Every game is so cool. All the developers did their bestest and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's just a giant circle jerk, honestly.
Review front soon, hopefully starting with something like Star Wars Outlaws, but we'll talk then. Just wanted to make sure I gave an update on the reviews, and I appreciate those of you interested in them. Sorry for bowing out for a little bit on that.
Oh boy, man, Star Wars out. I can't wait until that hits Ubisoft. And then Assassin's Creed. Boys, let's cross our fingers and hope that this is the end of Ubisoft, because, man, having such absolute disasters 2 in a row, well, technically 3 if you count Skull and Bones, is gonna be major, okay? Hopefully Ubisoft does not recover.
With that, I just want to begin at the top with the review situation for Black Myth Wukong. So reviews for Black Myth Wukong are in, and overall pretty good. Some surprisingly low ones, like this reaching as low as a 6 was kind of stunning to me. but I think I get where some reviewers are coming from. Now, I'm not
I do not at all. They're probably just complete trash at the game and couldn't
interested in
finish the tutorial.
reviewing reviews. I've tried that in the past, and it's just like, I think, a weird form of content. But what I do want to talk about is where these scores fall. And one thing that's been consistent among all these reviewers is noting that they were all on PC and that there were a level of technical issues. Now, that's important because Cyberpunk 2077 was a valuable lesson for all reviewers across the industry. It's extremely common when you submit a request for a review copy that you kind of just take what's given to you because you're lucky to get a review copy at all. Take it as someone who's been doing this for, like 13, 14 years. I'm still struggling to get into contact with certain companies just to do my job, just to be like, hey, I want to review the next big game from you. And most times you're just
chill harder, honestly, at this point. What else is there?
Straight up ghosted. And I'd like to say I have a decent online presence that could at least warrant a response, not to sound entitled. But yeah, it's really tough to just scratch and claw your way to a code. So when you do get a code, you kind of just take what you get. Oh, you gave me Xbox, you give me Switch? Sure. Like, I need access. There are other outlets like IGN where are afforded like a dozen codes at once because they do guides and reviews and all that stuff. So they take up a lot of the codes, and apparently there's a limited amount printed out. But yeah, there is a little bit of priority in that, which we'll get into between influencer, content creator, as well as the press. Still, as I was saying, Cyberpunk 2077 was such a valuable lesson for us to learn. So when they say something like, oh, PS4 and Xbox One codes aren't available for Cyberpunk, there was a time you just kind of shrug your shoulders and go, okay. But then you now learn with what Cyberpunk did with its last gen versions, yeah, maybe we should ask a little more questions on that front as to why certain things are unavailable. That brings us to this article from PlayStation Lifestyle titled, Lack of Black Myth Wukong PS5 Reviews Causes Concern. Black Myth Wukong PS5 reviews are nowhere to be found with less than 24 hours left to launch. And players are...
Who cares? Who honestly cares?
Understandably concerned. We're not going to get to the assortment of controversy.
Listen, if you're gonna play this game and you're gonna be like, I'm gonna play it on console, yeah, you're already doing it wrong, okay? Just get a PC. Just buy a controller, plug it into the PC, and bam, a better experience.
That developer Game Science has found itself surrounded by, but it is genuinely concerning that the studio chose to release some shoddy PS5 gameplay over the weekend, presumably to quell said concerns. They also continue on saying, full disclosure, our network was one of those who specifically requested a PS5 code for Black Myth Wukong, and like everyone else, we were told that the request could not be accommodated at this time. All of the Black Myth Wukong reviews that you've read thus far are tested for the PC version. So with that, it does cause some concern for the PS5 version of the game. There is gameplay out now. I have it on screen that came from IGN China, and I don't think it looks
Okay, again, I physically am not capable of trusting anything that comes out of China.
I think that's a pretty rash definition for what's there. I think YouTube file compression does a lot to these games in a negative way, and I hope YouTube can somehow one day figure that out, because unless you're rendering in like 4K, you're maybe getting decent quality out of the games you're showing off. But never have I ever made a review where I feel like the video I'm putting out on a visual front is really displaying how beautiful certain games can be, and I think art style lends itself a little bit better in that manner of speaking. But also there were people noting like camera cuts. Are they chopping out frame dips? There was one point where there was a lot of VFX on screen, and it looked like the performance dipped ever so slightly. It's possible, because it's also very brief gameplay. I don't know. I think it's really rash to assume things look awful from just this. I also think it's fair to have a level of concern with just PC reviews. My suggestion, as always, is if you're excited for this game, just don't pre-order. Wait for performance reviews. That extra day or two can save you a lot of headaches, and just know.
Oh, that's not how this works. Sadly, FOMO. Well, this is... I don't know if this is exactly considered FOMO, if they created a new word for it. But when the hype train is rolling, people are not gonna wait a day, okay? Pre-orders work because there's a lot of hype. And in situations like this, no one's gonna wait one extra day to figure out, oh, is it good on PlayStation? No, they're buying it. They're buying it. Chances are, even if they want to know that, they're still pre-ordering it, and then, you know, if it's bad, well, shit, you're gonna play anyway.
Knowing, like, hey, what's the performance review for the PS5 version? Because I'm sure Digital Foundry will be all over it. But yeah, it's one of those situations we just have to be a little bit wary of when it comes to these games. Because I do think Black Myth Wukong does look great. The only reason I'm not interested in picking it up and playing it is it's been described as a boss rush game. And I know that's good that they kind of got rid of.
Yeah. Dude, the bosses in this game are one thing, but the fact that there's a mini boss before the boss, and there's a mini boss before the mini boss, and there's two mini bosses before the mini boss. Yeah, well, there's a lot of bosses in this game, that's for sure.
Rid of the Souls-like narrative surrounding it. It's more of just an action RPG, but I played a game called Fury years ago. I thought it was pretty good, pretty underrated, but that was a boss rush game, and it was cool, but like I just don't enjoy the boss rush. Like, even in a game I've learned to really love in Sekiro, they have a boss rush mode in there, and I didn't even enjoy that. I kind of like the in-between exploration. Gives me a moment to breathe, but you know, different strokes for different folks out there, so no problem if you do enjoy it. But yeah, I'm not really interested in Black Myth Wukong on that level, but I think the game looks great, and I would just say, and my personal suggestion would be just take a moment to see if you only have consoles available, maybe hold off and just see how things are going over there before committing fully to a purchase. But perhaps that's words on deaf ears, given how we love to pre-order our games here in the industry. Now,
well, if the game looks good, again, who's pre-ordering Star Wars Outlaws? No one. Who's pre-ordering Assassin's Creed Shadows? No one! Oh, how horrible. Yeah, and I hope that no one buys also the deluxe editions, Jesus. I have never once in my life actually been satisfied with a single deluxe edition ever. It's pointless to buy them.
More interestingly is what's also broken here surrounding what influencers received when receiving a copy as well for Black Myth Wukong. And I want to again discuss less the ethics of the situation.
Is this the Twitter post? Because yesterday on my Discord someone posted the Black Myth Wukong review parameters that you need to do, and it's effectively like, say whatever you want and have fun. Which I honestly, I don't know. I really doubt that that's real. Okay, I think that's just a marketing stunt, if anything.
Situation in terms of the subject matter that is surrounding this company, and more about, again, the business side of things. I'm not trying to dodge tough topics, but it's just not what I'm here to talk about in the terms of like politics and all this stuff. It's not what you're here for. It's not what I'm here to do. So
not a lot of politics involved in this one. Maybe you should talk about politics so no one calls you a shill, because man, saying Star Wars Outlaws is good. It's like, okay, that just loses all credibility really fast.
So the headline is Black Myth Wukong influencers asked to leave politics, COVID, and feminist propaganda out of coverage, as reported by Sports
Feminist propaganda. Oof.
Illustrated video games team. French content creator and former Game Cult editor Benoit Rainier had posted a video revealing that he had been sent a document which he then shared online. The document, sent to influencers and streamers by Hero Games, the marketing team for Black Myth Wukong's developers and publisher Game Science, specifies a number of topics they aren't allowed to talk about while covering the game. These include insulting other influencers or players. Okay, sure.
Oh yeah, this is the same thing. No, wait, this is slightly different.
Fair. Using offensive language or humor. Okay. Using trigger words like quarantine, isolation, or COVID-19.
Hey, it's China. They don't want to be associated with this, okay? The bat soup is over.
And discussing China's games industry policies, opinions, news, etc.
This is different than what I saw. Interesting. It's in the same gist, but it is different than what I saw. Okay. Very interesting. But yes. Again, you see why I don't trust China? This literally has the CCP printed all over it. Well, not exactly them, but people who understand it. Wait a minute, we should not talk about these topics because maybe then China's going to get pissed on us for doing it. And this is exactly it. COVID, China really does not like anyone who tries to associate them with that. And China's game industry policies, opinions at ETC is essentially leave China's politics out of that, okay? Leave the fact that Disneyland commended China for having a slave camp for making their movie out of it, you know? Things like that. You're supposed to thank China for organ harvesting, not condemn them. Well, the Saudis definitely don't condemn them for that, that's for sure.
Etc. Now, there are a number of ways that you can look at this.
Neither the French, because the French are just pussies.
As someone who skimmed through at least a respectable amount of articles on the subject, I don't see many bringing it up. They're usually jumping to the IGN report on what they talked about with, studio conduct within game science. But I'm really thinking about.
Wait a minute. History of sexism is journey to the West. Oh, oh no! Oh no! Some purple-haired land whale is being triggered. Oh no! How sad! Oh no! Think about the future. We need to be progressive. Beautiful.
Within game science, but I'm really thinking about what they're trying to avoid here is some of Tencent's questionable reputation at times. There's a lot of people who have issues with how Tencent is stepping into the industry and how much money they have and how they're utilizing it. And
I don't. Wait, what kind of issues do people have with Tencent, honestly? Tencent is a giant new conglomerate. Yes, true. But honestly, considering how it does things, I'm kinda okay with that. Not, well, except the part that it is literally governed by China and pretty much a Chinese propaganda tool at this point. Oh, but typically, currently at least, what Tencent is effectively doing is they are just divulging investments into, well, pretty much wherever they can, and they're not really often stepping in and saying what needs to happen. They just buy a substantial amount of your shares for a company, and then they're like, nothing. They do nothing. They just let you do their own thing, and they rarely intervene at this point. Again, Tencent is literally beholden to China on every level possible. So they can turn really sour really fast if Xi Jinping decides that he doesn't like gamers making fun of him.
so when you see here, as Daniel Ahmad had stated, Tencent has acquired a 5% minority stake in Game Science, the developer of Black Myth Wukong. I think you can erect a respectable defense for the developer and publisher here in Game Science that what's happening is they're like, look, just review the game, y'all. Like, just don't talk about things like what's going on with Tencent or things within our team. Just talk about the game. Don't get your...
Also, I don't like this, okay? The reason why they don't want you to talk about them, because it is at some point it's gonna turn evil. It's gonna be really bad. Again, currently I think Tencent is fine, but again, in the near future it could be bad. And well, if we keep talking about how bad they are and whatnot, they're not gonna stop investing. They're not gonna stop doing any of that, but they're gonna be slower at becoming bad. Let's just put it at that. So, whenever someone wants you to not talk about something specifically, that's a red flag. And this is one of those things. Accepting these terms of not talking about these subjects because China doesn't like it is absolutely spineless in my honest opinion. Unless you want to pay me, China. My voice is for hire. Again, I will shill you harder than a dumpling soup vendor, okay? It's gonna be amazing.
Personal politics involved.
And I'm pretty cheap. I'm relatively cheap.
On that front, I can kind of get it. Like, there's a level of some people getting away from what a game review is, and they're trying to just narrow the scope a little bit. And I can understand the attempt at doing that. What's worth considering here, though, is that it says it appears the document had only been sent to YouTuber and streamers rather than game journalists. Video Games Chronicle did
Yeah, so they wanted them to leak this and talk about this.
not receive the document, and Eurogame has also stated that it didn't either. The problem with this is I can understand reviewers taking a more focused approach, but like streaming this game is now kind of like limited speech. Like, you just can't talk about anything. You know, like just showing off the game, there's like a list of things you can and can't say. And that's not great. So I think I sympathize more for the streamer than the reviewer here. Otherwise, you might...
That sounds so ironic after you called Star Wars Outlaws good after you got lathered up. Oink, oink. Ah, the irony.
Be off topic with what people are tuning in for at times. But I think I get both sides.
But what can I say at the end of the day, boys? Money is money.
the argument here is how I'm approaching it. I don't know if there's a perfect answer for this. It is unfortunately one of those situations, although I know people will scream about it that it shouldn't be that way. But I'm just saying, I think it is one of those situations, and I apologize if it sounds like I'm fence riding, because I'm not. It's just I try to be understanding and open-minded and try to just take in all perspectives and be considerate to all avenues. But for me personally, like, I understand if you're a team who's worked years on a game that you kind of want to just have people talk about the game and just be like, look, like, we've tried to iron this stuff out. Like, we don't need to hear about studio conduct issues, or we don't need to hear about your thoughts on Tencent. Like, did we do this right, or did we do this wrong? Like, that's what we want to hear. I understand and respect that, but I also understand and respect, like, a freedom of speech and being able to just say your piece. I think that's also equally very important. With that in mind, the main thing I really wanted to talk about with all of this is the difference, right? We noticed the difference here, and what I read is that YouTubers and streamers got one thing and press got another. This is extremely, extremely common, and you can usually
why would they both parties that are completely different get the same thing?
tell just by how you're addressed, like even down to the email of some of these companies. Like, it'll be like influencers at company name, and it's like, okay, I know exactly what bucket I fall in. There are tiers to this thing. Like, I've gone to preview events where I've been in like group C, and there's an A group and a B group that go before me and get their coverage in first, and sometimes get special privileges. This is an industry, as I've said a number of times, completely guided by a level of nepotism. Obviously, like any working field, who you know has a huge impact on things.
Wait, how is this nepotism?
Status is a huge thing in this industry. For me, I think I have a respectable online following.
Nepotism is not status. Nepotism is being nothing, bad at what you do, and still moving upward in the world. Considering this stuff is made based on views and whatever, well, it's not nepotism if someone who has 1 million subscribers gets to go before you and is treated a little bit like oink oink style, okay?
But I definitely know for most of these companies, in fact, I've accidentally seen emails forwarded about reporting on my channel and like my stats and stuff. I know how they view things. Like, numbers are okay on this channel. Like, numbers are pretty good here. Like, focus on this. And I'm like, interesting. Like, that's how they evaluate you.
No one knows what good numbers are, okay? This industry is way too effed up to actually understand what numbers are good and what not. Listen, you can do a sponsorship ship stream with the embedded link, and you can have 2K average viewers on your stream, and you can stream for 8 hours straight, and maybe you get like 2 people who actually use the link and play the game that you are shilling for, okay? And they're gonna call that a success. And then someone with a 400 viewer stream can do the same and get 3 clicks on the link, and that is also called a success. The standards for this industry are pretty much just how much gaslighting each company can do to convince the people paying the money that whatever they are doing is just worth it. That is the brutal reality.
Even sometimes not even about your conduct online, but just the numbers you pull versus your subscriber amount. Like, you see that sort of stuff happen from time to time. It's extremely common, unfortunately. And so what you're seeing here are buckets. The press, seemingly according to the agency handling this, looks like they may not be able to muscle certain things in, certain talking points in, versus streamers and content creators. We don't really have that much of a leg to stand on. It's just like, we're independent and we're as easy to cut out as we are to include. Why is that? Because what I always say is, for people like me, I'm lucky to have my own platform big enough where I can stand my ground and be like, no, screw that, I'm not going to do that, and make a little noise about it, and then make my coverage afterwards and make a stance. But there are people who are trying to scratch and claw their way up, and a lot of ways you do that in this industry is through access. So they can easily say, well, we can wash our hands of Maddie because we have X, Y, and Z lined up and ready to do whatever the hell we want them to
He is right about that, though.
do, and keep things in line and keep the vision. And they have a big audience too. Like, they're just people who don't.
Here's a pro trick that literally is not going to help any of you, probably. But this is how stuff works, okay? You get sent a campaign that you need to do at an X date, and this is how it works. If you don't do it initially, because your terms were not acceptable to them, if they start messaging you after after it's very close to the end of the campaign, well, congratulations, now you have a lot more power because they are desperate. They are not they have not found enough people, or the quality of people they have found is not good enough, and whatever. So you get more leverage then. Okay, if anyone ever approaches you at the end of a certain campaign, of a hype train or whatever, they really want you at that point, so you kind of have more leverage.
Don't care, and they're like, just give me the game. I don't care. So yeah, there is a level of ethics to it for sure. But this is, I think, one of those moments where I just like to talk on where the industry is at. And yeah, we definitely fall into different buckets. And I'm not saying that as an excuse. It's more just that, like, yeah, we're 100% treated differently. There are companies that do it.
Man, he's being really defensive about that. Well, anyway, that was Black Myth Wukong. No real drama here. Have a nice day. Bye.